He asked the alien beauty, "What if I kissed you?" Her reaction changed the fate of two worlds. The stars had never looked so close and yet so dangerous as they did from the observation deck of the Starlight vessel, where Daniel Carter stood frozen, in place watching the most beautiful creature he had ever seen glide through the corridor, with movements that seemed to defy gravity itself. She was not human, and that was obvious, from the moment he laid eyes on her during the first diplomatic meeting between Earth and the Valorian Empire 3 weeks ago. But something about her presence made his heart race in ways he could not explain to anyone, including himself. Her name was Lyra, and she served as the cultural ambassador for her people, tasked with helping the humans understand the complex society they were about to join, if the alliance treaty was signed and approved by both governing bodies within the next lunar cycle. Daniel had been chosen as one of the 12 human representatives, because of his background in linguistics and his ability to remain calm under pressure. But nothing in his training had prepared him for the effect this alien woman would have on his thoughts and his carefully maintained professional demeanor. Lyra had skin that shimmered with a soft violet hue under the ship lights, and her eyes were large and expressive, changing colors based on her emotional state from deep purple when she was thoughtful to bright silver when she laughed at something one of the humans said during their cultural exchange sessions. Her hair, if it could be called that, flowed like liquid starlight down her back, moving independently as if it had a mind of its own. And when she spoke, her voice carried a melodic quality that made even the most boring diplomatic discussions sound like poetry being recited in an ancient language. The problem was that Daniel had started to develop feelings for her, and he knew it was the worst possible thing that could happen during such a critical mission where the future of humanity depended on maintaining professional relationships and not causing any interspecies incidents that could derail the entire peace process. But every day spent working alongside Lyra made it harder to ignore the connection growing between them during their late-night translation sessions when they would sit together reviewing documents and sharing stories about their respective worlds and the dreams they had for a peaceful future. One evening, after another long day of negotiations, Daniel found himself alone with Lyra in the botanical garden section of the ship, where earth plants grew alongside Valorian flora, creating a strange but beautiful mixture of two worlds coming together in harmony. Lyra stood near a cluster of glowing flowers native to her home planet, touching their petals gently, and Daniel watched her with an expression he hoped she could not read, because he was terrible at hiding his emotions, especially around her. She turned to look at him, and her eyes shifted to a warm golden color that he had learned meant she was feeling content and at peace with her surroundings, which made his heart skip several beats in succession. They had been avoiding talking about the growing tension between them for weeks now, but Daniel could feel that something had to give because the air felt charged with unspoken words and feelings that threatened to overflow at any moment. "What are you thinking about, Daniel?" she asked him, using his first name instead of his formal title, which she only did when they were alone together away from the prying eyes and ears of the other diplomats and crew members. He hesitated, knowing that what he wanted to say could change everything between them and possibly jeopardize the mission. But the words came out anyway before he could stop himself from speaking them into existence. "What if I kissed you?" he asked her quietly, watching her face for any sign of shock or disapproval, or the kind of diplomatic rejection he had been dreading since he first realized his feelings for her. Lyra went completely still, and her eyes shifted rapidly through several colors, purple to silver to a deep crimson that he had never seen before, and for a moment Daniel thought he had made a terrible mistake that would haunt him forever. But then she stepped closer to him and reached out to touch his face with her long, elegant fingers that felt warm against his skin, despite being from a species that had evolved on a planet much colder than Earth. "You do not understand what you are asking," she said softly, and there was something in her voice that sounded like both sadness and hope, mixed together in equal measures. "Among my people, a kiss is not just a simple gesture of affection," she explained, her eyes now settling into a steady rose gold color that pulsed gently like a heartbeat. "It is a bond that connects two souls across time and space," she continued, "and when a Valorian kisses someone from another species, it creates a link that cannot be broken except by death itself." Daniel felt his breath catch in his throat as he processed what she was telling him, understanding now why she had kept her distance, even when he felt sure she shared his feelings. Are you saying that if we kissed we would be bound together forever? He asked, wanting to make absolutely certain he understood the implications before making any decisions. Lyra nodded slowly, and her hair rippled, with emotion casting soft light patterns across both their faces in the dim garden. Yes, she said simply, but there is more you should know before you decide if this is truly what you want. A bond between species has not occurred in over 3 centuries, she told him, because the last time it happened it nearly started a war between 2 civilizations who did not understand or accept the union, but it also brought about the greatest peace treaty in Valorian history. She added quickly, when a human, explorer, and a Valorian scientist bonded and refused to let their love be used as a weapon by those who feared what they did not understand. Daniel listened carefully, understanding that what she was really telling him was that their potential bond could either help unite their peoples or tear them apart depending on how others chose to react. "What do you want, Lyra?" he asked her, because that was the only question that truly mattered to him in this moment. Her eyes shifted to a brilliant white that he had never seen before, and she smiled at him with an expression so full of emotion that it took his breath away completely. "I want what you want," she whispered. "But I needed you to understand the cost before I could allow myself to hope." Daniel reached for her hand and held it gently, feeling the warmth and the slight tremor that told him she was just as nervous as he was about taking this step. "Then let the universe decide what happens next," he said, and leaned forward slowly, giving her every opportunity to pull away if she changed her mind. But Lyra did not pull away. Instead, she met him halfway, and when their lips touched, Daniel felt a surge of energy rush through his entire body like lightning spreading through every nerve and cell. The garden around them suddenly came alive with light as every Valorian plant began to glow in response to the bond being formed, and Daniel could feel Lyra in his mind and heart in ways he never imagined possible. He could sense her emotions, her thoughts, her hopes and fears, and he knew without asking that she could feel the same from him, creating a connection deeper than any words could ever express. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were breathing hard, and Lyra's eyes had settled into a permanent rainbow shimmer that she explained meant her soul had found its match. "What have we done?" she asked, but she was smiling as she said it, and Daniel knew she did not regret their choice. "We just changed everything," he replied, and pulled her close again, knowing that the coming days would be difficult when they had to explain this to their respective leaders. The next morning, when they appeared before the Joint Council holding hands with Lyra's eyes still shimmering with rainbow light, there was immediate shock and confusion among both the human and Valorian delegations. Some called for the treaty to be abandoned, claiming this was a violation of protocol, while others argued it was a sign that unity between their species was not only possible but destined. But Daniel and Lyra stood together calm and united, and when they explained the nature of the Valorian bond and what it meant for both their peoples, something remarkable began to happen. The elder Valorian council members who remembered the stories of the last bonded pair began to speak of how that union had ultimately brought lasting peace and prosperity to multiple worlds, and the human diplomats who had spent weeks getting to know Lyra saw in her eyes the genuine love and commitment she felt for Daniel and found it impossible to condemn something so pure. After 3 days of intense debate and discussion, the councils reached a decision that surprised everyone. They would not only approve the treaty but would recognize Daniel and Lyra as the official ambassadors of the new alliance, serving as living proof that 2 different species could not just coexist, but truly become one, standing on the bridge of the ship as it prepared to return to Earth. Daniel held Lyra close and looked out at the stars, knowing that their journey was just beginning. What they had started with a simple question and a brave choice would ripple out across the galaxy, affecting countless lives and worlds in ways they could not yet imagine. But whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, bound by a love that transcended species and a hope that 2 worlds could finally find peace. The alien beauty who had captured his heart had become his partner, his soulmate, and his bridge to a future where humanity would never walk alone among the stars again.